Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. I'm working on some multiple postcard sized sort of pieces today. I've taped them down with masking tape just to create that division between them, so simple as that. And I sort of have postcards, festive greenery, maybe some berries, maybe sort of old paper backgrounds. I mean, old paper backgrounds is sort of where I'm starting. So I've got pumice stone distress spray stain and old paper distress spray stain. And because I'm taped down to my mat, I've just got nearby a piece of tear off palette paper in case I want to do any ink mixing or paint mixing. So it's just a slightly water resistant surface that will allow the paint not to dry out completely on the page, and I may or may not want that in the mix, although sort of straight away I'm thinking, do I want to spray direct or do I want something a bit more watery? And one way to get something a bit more watery is of course to put some water there in advance, and then maybe we'll have a little spray with the pumice stain, or maybe we won't. What's with you? Okay, so I have a feeling we've encountered this before, the fact that I need to rinse out my pumice stain nozzle, but nothing is lost for now. I'll just go the other way and sprinkle on my pumice stain like so, which will give me kind of bigger droplets of it, but that's fine. We're only at the starting point at this point, and I do want mottled paper. Like I was talking about in the last video, stained, mouldy, mottled paper as though it's been in an old library. Old paper is probably quite a good one to use at Christmas if we're doing festive greenery, because it does have that greeny tinge. So that really is mouldy paper. And then just another spritz of water, just to let that colour kind of spread out and mottle and kind of get all murky and delicious, splotchy and dribbly and all those things. We could even put a little tint of shimmer into that background, couldn't we? What have we got here? Specimen. Oh, Specimen is a lovely sort of, it's meant to be spooky, but I love it for Christmas as well. This is the mica stain. And what you really need to hear when you're shaking is you need to hear the little mixing ball rattling around, which I can't quite yet, which means it's still sitting in the mica at the bottom. You can see there's still powder clagging at the bottom there. That's good, really good. Come on, out you come. I mean, it is starting to mix because I can see it coming away from the bottom. There it is, hear that? There it is. So that mixing ball in there is doing what it says. It's helping the powder to mix. It's hitting the powder and forcing it to come up off the bottom. See, now there's just a little bit around this corner. Okay, that was a lot of work to just get a few bits of spattery ink. Oh, that's pretty full on, isn't it? But I do, oh, look how it's spreading out. So this again underneath is just the watercolor paper off the pad, like so. Last little bits now, and yeah, a bit more water, I think. So this has already changed direction from where I was expecting to go, because that's a lot more full on in the background than I was thinking I would be, but I can of course just choose to knock it back a little bit. I don't remember Specimen being quite that obstreperous. But that's quite fun. It's, you know, it's nice when a product takes you by surprise and you kind of go, oh, well, that changes how I'm feeling about these now. Let's just soften a bit. So otherwise, everything in the foreground is just going to have to yield place to what's going on in the background there. Good, but I kind of like the sort of mix and blend of old mouldy colours we're getting there. There's some grey tones. There's even some pink tones. I wonder what's doing that in the background there. Could be the pumice stone, I guess, compared to the old paper. But I'm going to dry that with my heat tool. I could let it dry. Actually, why don't we let it dry? Right, back with you again. Sorry, that was an alarm going off on the phone telling me to do something, and it stops the camera. While the camera was off, I thought, well, I might as well do a bit of drying of this, and then I thought, well, no, I want some extra bits of old paper on there, so I've just had another extra little spritz of old paper, and now I'm going to dry it. So I'm going to go away again and come back when these are dry and ready for the next stage. Back in a sec. Right, so I'm back and ready to carry on with these, and I think what I want to do is a little bit of sponging. I like to use a natural sponge for that. You can usually get these in little cut-off bits, and I like a natural sponge because it gives you a lot more interesting texture, I think, than an artificial sponge. But if you are massively vegetarianly minded, then by all means go with the artificial sort. So yeah, I'm just going to, I've got on the table here some of my PaperArtsy Fresco paints, Magic Moss and Seaglass, which are in fact in some of my curated botanical sets for PaperArtsy. I'll leave a link to those. And I sort of want, I'm thinking postcards, so I'm thinking greenery kind of coming up from the bottom for the most part, but some of it might drift across from the side. So I'm just going to create a kind of background greenery, if you like. I've got other colours ready to add in, and I think I might put a bit of hay pesto in. Hay pesto is a bit more of a sort of warm green, and because old paper's got a warmish tinge to it, I think, as opposed to the two cool greens that I've got going on there, I think hay pesto is going to give us a, so that's just kind of coming in from the edges and giving us some extra, yes, I do like the hay pesto in there, some extra greenery. And this one I'm going to come up from the bottom for. I like how the Seaglass is giving me a little sort of maybe a frosty thought within there. This one's going to come up from this corner. Let's see how that looks. Maybe a little bit of overhang as we've done on the other side. Just going to need another couple of droplets of paint, I think. I'll take that over there. And you can see that that natural sponge is giving me sort of almost fir branch texture as it goes on. Yeah, and I do need just a little bit more for up here. Can never have too much green at Christmas. And there are fir branches come in all sorts of colours of green. There's holly, which is such a deep, dark, glossy green usually. Mistletoe has sort of bright acid about it quite often. Or sometimes has a sort of silvery grey, depending on the kind you get. So it's all up for grabs green-wise, I always think, at this time of year. Even though the deciduous trees have all gone bare and have their beautiful silhouettes against the sky, as far as fir branches that we bring in to decorate the house or put in vases or actually have the Christmas tree. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying the kind of random nature of all of this. I might put a little bit of Seaglass over just that bit of Specimen there because it's still quite full on, and that's just little bits of texture spreading out into my postcards. Good, I keep calling them postcards and I'm feeling the urge to make them look a little bit more postcardy. I'm slightly sad about that paint going missing on there. I did have a couple of little ATCs lying around here that we used to mop up with last video or several videos ago. So having loosened up that paint with plenty of water, I think what I'm going to do, these have just got some, I don't know, some sort of grey shimmer on them. I'm going to give them a bit of green, and they might come into play at some point later on. I like having multiple things on the go at this time of year, because then when something's drying, you can be getting on with something else. No time wasting. Of course, I don't need to wipe this up. This is a paper palette that I'm going to throw away. I could leave all the paint on there and just let it dry and then use it later. But for now, I want to clear my decks. So yeah, I think I might let that do just a little bit of drying. Frescoes really don't take a long time to dry because they are chalk paints and they tend to dry very, very quickly. But I'm going to set that aside and give it a little bit of time to dry and do something else in the meantime with this leftover bit of music paper we had from when we made the gift envelopes. If you missed the gift envelopes, I will link that so that you can find it. I'm just going to wash out my sponge, because if you let the acrylic paint dry on the sponge, it will go kind of hard and crusty, and then you'll have a different kind of texture to play with. But I'm going to wash that out back in a sec. So with these, I was just really thinking of doing a very quick bit of collaging, because they could be card toppers, they could just be stuck onto a parcel. If you've got a nice square parcel, I'm just going to eyeball chopping that approximately down the middle so that I've got a pair. And yeah, this is when a little bit of product can just really make your life very, very easy. So I've got a couple of packs of the Ideology Tim Holtz winter ephemera. There are labels, there are plants and greenery, all of that. I've got from the other day, again, this is the same video as the gift envelopes. My brain's not in operation today. I've got some of the handmade ephemera that we did with the stamping, with my own festive minis and with the Tim Holtz little labels there. I've also got a little bit of this leftover green affair that we used to cut with, and I'm just thinking I might start with some architecture from that for this collaging. So yeah, I'm just going to cut it into a couple of strips so that I'm going to have a couple of longer strips and a couple of slightly shorter strips by cutting it slightly not quite in the center. And I'm just going to use that to create a little bit of structure for other things to grow on. And I can already see that I'd quite like maybe to put these onto a card background. So I've got some sort of pre-folded cards. Let me grab one of those to show you what I'm talking about. So these kinds of affairs, they very often come in a pack with envelopes included, and they're as easy as pie because they're ready for you to play on as a surface. I don't like fold on the inside or the outside. And yeah, if you're going to be making a topper like this, it can just rest itself either towards the bottom or towards the top, and then you've got room for a greeting. So I'm sort of thinking in the long run that they'll probably end up doing that. Should we just glue them straight onto there and be done with worrying about when it's going to happen? Yeah, I might do a little bit of, as we did the other day, a little bit of scraggling of those ends just with a scissor blade. Please don't chop your fingers off if you're doing it this way. There are tools you can do this with. There's a thread cutter if you're into needlework or sewing, which I emphatically am not. I don't mind. Nice proper rip on there, that's good. That's a good vintage thing. I don't want it to go any further across than that probably, so that's why I'm holding on to it. Don't want it to rip more than it just did. So this is the same thing basically that we did with the gift envelopes, just making those papers a little more interesting around the edges. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to glue them onto the cards and come back when I'm ready for collaging. So I've glued those down, one up, one down, just because it gives me the starting point of a bit of variation. I'm just leafing through some of these plant layers, Christmas botanicals, but of course the seasonal ideology is usually different each year, so you'd need to look for leftover ones of those. Maybe that, maybe slightly smaller. Well, oh, I see, so that's the same print. Oh, so I quite like that with the different size. And then if there's, oh, that's nice. One for that on there. If you've got double, I've pulled out, of course, the greenery. Red still doesn't quite float my boat. I know you've seen on the Tag Tuesday festive tags coming out. There are some red ones. Maybe I can cope if it's just the berries. Maybe that's maybe that's bearable if I've just got the red of the berries, because I do, as you'll know from my stamps, berries do get to play a part every now and then. How do we feel about that? Yeah, that's sort of feeling okay to me. What else have we got? Oh look, I've tucked some of last year's festive minis in there as ephemera as they go, which is, it's not a bad idea. What about some of the ones we stamped last week could go as extras on here, because it's just layering things in at this point, just to get a kind of overall look. Quite like, I'm quite enjoying the mistletoe there. Maybe we don't want the watercolor ones from last week. Maybe we do want these stamped ones from before. That's quite nice. That's quite nice. Really trying not to think very hard about this. Don't want to take time. The whole point of these is that they can save you time. But then I get into second guessing the red and then it's all over. I do quite like these mistletoe boughs as well. That's quite good. That's quite good. What else have we got in here? Red labels. This is another just little set. Oh, well, maybe with the red of the berries, I can just about cope with having the 25th of December around. This panel is slightly larger than this panel, so there are two sizes of this. I'm going to go with the slightly larger one over here. Yeah, that's shaping up okay. I'm beginning to accept what's happening with the red. Beginning to deal with that. Oh, I can hear a train in the distance. Any minute now, it's probably going to kick off down in the valley down below. Yep, hoot hoot. Yes, we know you're coming. We hear you. Okay, that's quite a good one because that's got minimal red on. And what I can do in my usual way when I'm dealing with two at a time. Oh, but maybe I want to cut it that way. No, I don't. I want to cut it that way so that they both have a bit of that one going on. But this might be too wide to allow for it. Or maybe it's coming in from the edge. No, I don't want to go right to the edge. No, wrong. We'll keep that cut in half for a future day. Too much. You can layer and layer and layer and layer collage, or you can keep things relatively straightforward. And I tend to be a relatively straightforward kind of person. We could go for a paper doll added into the mix here. I do enjoy the winter paper dolls. Just seeing the hats and the coats and the ways they wrap up warm. They're a bit grumpy though. She's got a light in her eye. Those two are looking a little bit wary. But again, there's a thing about that I read somewhere or discovered, I can't remember now the provenance, that it's some of it, if it's very early photos, is to do with the early cameras for which you had to hold still for so long in order for it to take the exposure. And that meant it was much easier to hold a solemn face than it is to hold a smile still in position. So photographers would encourage people to not smile in photos because it was just going to mean that they weren't all blurry around the face. I'm quite enjoying those dolls. I'm also quite enjoying it without the dolls. Okay, I think my papers are probably dry now, so I'm now going to set these to one side to just let them sort of percolate and let myself think about what I might want. I've just glanced at these ATCs lying here and wondered if they're meant to be part of this mix as well. Possibly. What I am going to do is do a bit of ink edging around the real edges of these cards because at the moment it's too bright white for my liking. It's setting off the panelling in quite a nice way and it does draw your eye to the centre, but as you can hear I'm in two minds about it at present. I think we're probably going to have some of these labels. Yes, we'll come to that in a minute. I want to proceed a little further with my postcards, so I'm just going to carefully move these out of the way without too much movement on what's already on there and find my postcards to play with. As I was saying, I keep calling them postcards and here's where we start to make that a truer thing. This is Postcards, Tim Holtz set, lots of delicious postcard toppings. As you can see, this is my favourite, definitely the most used, and at the moment my inclination is to use it on all four, or I might branch out into maybe this one. So first up, let's stamp. So inking up, this is my black Archival. It is, as I've explained before, not jet black as it's claiming on the cover. I used the Archival Black Soot Re-Inker to make it be black soot instead. So at the top of that one, I'm going to do that. And this is, as we know, watercolor paper, so it may be that it is just not quite as smooth a surface as some, but I quite like the vintage look of that stamping. I'm going to go down here, stamp in the middle, like so. That's a bit blacker. That just had a little bit more ink on it. Oh, I said I was going to use the other, didn't I? Okay. I will. That's inked up, ready to go. Go on. Let's be brave. Let's push the boat out and use a different postcard stamp. Let's go down there. Oh, that is quite nice as well. Let's do another of those. I was eyeing up one of the other ones on the plate, but I think it's gonna be a bit too in your face, the other one I'm looking at. So let's stick with these nice delicate vintage ones. There we go. Okay, and in order to complete the postcard illusion, I'm just going to go down the middle of each postcard with a short line that's going to divide my address part from my writing. That's just a fine marker. Hopefully it's water resistant one. I think it is. So I'm just getting that look of vintage postcard on all four. And now my feeling is it's time for some greenery stamping. Although it might be quite nice to have a little bit more text going on. I pulled out, anybody who's seen the Tag Tuesday festive tags will have seen this stamp in action. This is from my Juniper Berry edition, and it's Shakespeare's A Winter's Tale, just a frontispiece from an 18th century production of that. And it's just a really nice vintage text kind of look. I don't want it full on, so I think it's going to be Pebble Beach. I just want it as a sort of subliminal little bit of detailing in the background, maybe just sort of emerging from the greenery. And as you can see, I'm doing it without a stamping platform or grid, because I just want to be able to roll it on and off and have partial stampings. I don't want the whole thing. I want just that sort of little touch of text detailing just emerging from the greenery. I'll put one of those down there because it's inked up. Actually, it wasn't inked up. I don't think I'd inked to the bottom of the stamp. Down there. Yeah. So it's just giving me, again, a little bit of extra vintage detailing. It's probably mostly going to get covered up by greenery stamping, but it just has a sort of little, oh yes. It's very pale, so I will hold it up to the camera in a second to just prove that it is there. I might even, take it a little further over, because in those places it is going to get mostly covered up, I think, by some greenery. Yes, I am enjoying that quite a lot. And you can see I'm now going with secondary stampings just to use up the ink that's on there. Yep. Panic not. I know at the moment it looks as though it's just, there's lots going on these, but just wait till we get to the reveal of the peel back of the masking tape, because at that point you're suddenly going to get a real clarity and a framing around these. So I've got some greenery stamps, I've got some sort of berry stems, and I'm also thinking of using some of my wintry umbels, probably embossed in white, because I think that will give me the look of a frosted stem in a flower arrangement. But the first layers really need to be some greenery. So I've got those waiting here. These are some of the stamps you've seen in action already. The Tim Holtz watercolor, winter watercolors, the sketch greenery. Again, they'll be listed in the description below if you want to be able to track them down. I think I might want to start with a little bit of this magnificent branch, or yeah, let's be bold, shall we? It's huge, isn't it? So what I might again do is I might do it as a sort of partial stamping. I think it's going to be okay. And I'm gonna go, I've got lots of archival greens on the mat here. And because it's quite a fine detail stamp, I think we might go archival green with this. This is good old trusty olive. Good inking up. Always remembering again that we're working on watercolor paper here, so it is textured, so the stamps are not necessarily going to be as detailed as you would find them if you stamped on smoothie paper. Yeah, it's just a subliminal bit of shaping and greenery going on there. So it's going in one direction there. Gonna have it coming down the side here. And it's going over quite strong sponging as well, don't forget. So we're going to be building up the impression of this greenery. See those needles just coming around on the inside? That's really good. And what we're also creating here, if you're noticing, is some festive washi tape of sorts. So we have this one coming in. Kind of want to come up there. And I'm not really pressing here because I don't want it. It's mostly on the masking tape, but there's a couple of places where it's over on the other sides. Good. This is a good starting point because again, it's just like with the collaging, it's giving us a kind of structural base and architecture to start off from. And we'll have that coming up like so, I think. Well, that really wasn't inked up. Apologies. Let's put a little bit of extra coming in this direction just to fill up that space. There we go. Nice. Let's pop that down. Give the stamp a quick wipe. Okay, and I think I'm going to come in now with another one from this set. This is Forest Floor. And I do like this one. I think this one might come in maybe the Rustic Wilderness Oxide. I've always enjoyed. There it is. And we might put a little bit of mowed lawn in there just to kind of, yeah, for fun, you know. This is not quite the same as the watercolour stamping because you'll notice that rather than spritzing with water, I'm just allowing these to be detail stamps for now. You could give it a spritz of water and get a much more watercolour sort of effect. This is a really good one. Isn't that good coming up from there? I think we'll start to come up from the bottom on this one as well. Yeah, that's beautiful. So that hit of mowed lawn is just giving us a little bit of extra detailing within that stamp. It's just shifting the emphasis, and if I put the mowed lawn in a slightly different place on different stamping, then you'll get a different kind of a look from the stamp. Let's have you going off in that direction. Yes, I like that. I think there's going to be another go round with this one. I think it's going to become favourite stamp for these postcards. Let's have you come from above, why not? Because we've got greenery growing in all directions on these. So again, all of this is really background detailing still. It's background, background, background. Layers of subliminal kind of greeny colours. And what I'm aiming to do is to create with the white embossing powder the sort of focal image within each of these postcards. So I'm going to let that one's going off at that angle. So I think we'll send this one up over the postcard sign. Nice, I like that a lot. Why don't we go Mowed Lawn this time with just a touch of Rustic Wilderness. So reversing the process, we've now got a slightly brighter green coming on in that one. Let's have you go up there. Yes, so you get that variation in colour. Nature rarely works in one colour at a time. She likes to mix it up. I think we'll have another one coming in, slightly different angle there. Yeah, Mowed Lawn. And you can see this is starting to build into a real wilderness of greenery, which I'm enjoying a great deal. I'm going to put some of that up there because it just adds extra. And then I'm going to do a couple of secondary stampings because there's still plenty of ink on that stamp. Yeah, now it's starting to fade. I think we might go with one more Mowed Lawn. Just, well, maybe, no, maybe I want a bit more Rustic Wilderness. I'm just thinking through here, and maybe coming down from the top there. Maybe coming up. And then one that's coming down. Like so. Yeah, because I just want the shaping of those needles. So over that sponging, we've got a bit more detail coming through. Very nice. This I will just give a quick spritz of water to and wipe clean, just because otherwise those distress oxides are going to go everywhere in the packet. Very nice. I might give that a quick dry because, as you may remember, what we don't want to do is use embossing powder and have it stick to things we don't want it sticking to. Having said that, I'm feeling the urge for just a little more detail. There's quite a nice little detailed one here that might be good. Quite like this little one. Oh, maybe it's you. And I think I'm going to stamp you. I think I might be really bold about this and go, hoo hoo hoo. That's not very wintry. Beach. I'm going to look at it on something else to start with, just to see whether I really do mean to do this. Let's have the back of you just to have a look at the colour of that. Oh, that is quite good. It's got a gentle turquoisey, soft, evergreen bough thing to it, which I think might be quite good as a slight variation. Yeah, good. Excellent. And it's just a very different shape from the things that are already going on. So it's quite nice. I don't think I want it on the stamping block. I think I want to be able to peel it on and off with a bit more subtlety than that. Just adding a kind of impression of a different green moving through some of these sprays. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. It's a bit out on a limb by itself over here. Are you noticing? So it's just keep looking, see where something just doesn't work with your eye. So I'm going to use one of these and use maybe the leaf green since it's sitting here. Just to come in from the bottom there and give a bit more support to those ones that I stamped on the edges. And then I do want another of these coming up here. I do want another of these coming up here. I think I want another of these just coming along maybe here. Can you tell I'm enjoying this one? Lots and lots of lovely greenery. Grand. I'm going to pause and look. Maybe move those stamp sets because they're in the light. Yep. Yep, yep, yep. Vintage postcards full of winter greenery. I think it might be time for some white embossing, some flower stems and berries within this greenery. It's a little bit of extra rustic wilderness, a little bit of extra rustic wilderness, coming here, a little bit of extra wilderness, coming here, and definitely a little bit of extra wilderness. Too much. Coming here. Yeah, good. So as I said, I need to give these a really good dry, and I think I'll do some of that with the heat tool, and then I might set them aside just for a little bit and come back and look at my collage cards and see if my brain is ready to do any more with those just yet. Back in a sec. Back with the cards, and what I'm thinking is a little bit of inking is definitely on the menu. First of all, just around these little ones, just to edge them and give them that vintage warmth. This is Vintage Photo, which, if you want warmth, is the brown to go with. Very often I tend towards the cooler ends of colour palettes, but if you want to warm up a vintage look, you can't beat Vintage Photo. That actually probably has got a little bit, the blending sponge has got some darker browns on it already, almost certainly walnut stain. So that's a nice rich version of Vintage Photo we've got there. And I'm thinking I really want to get, I do want to get some inking right around the edge of here, because at the moment that bright white is really distracting me. So I'm going to go both brushing off the edges to get that firm contact, but also in places just coming onto the card a bit to get a bit more weathered and worn. And I think that might perk me up a little bit on what's going on there. Let's go around this one. The collage pieces are moving in the meantime, that's fine. They're all gonna end up in slightly different places anyway, almost guaranteed. So that's bringing a bit of the warmth that is on this panel also into the mix. I think it might want, because this is quite a yellowy brown on this panel, we might want to put in some frayed burlap, which will probably give us, could be frayed burlap, yeah, maybe. Or maybe the antique linen would do it. Have we got a sponge that will give us antique linen? Sort of pale greys. Antique linen was, when I started out, because it was obviously one of the original distress colours, antique linen and Vintage Photo were absolute staples. And then I kind of, so many other exciting colours came along. Sorry, I've gone off camera with my inking, haven't I? I'm back now. But antique linen still has a beautiful sort of vintage warmth to it again. Where we used old paper, which has that greenish tinge on our greenery postcards, antique linen really does have a brownish beige kind of softness to it. It needs re-inking really. There's not much coming onto the sponge, but it's just giving me a little bit of warmth around those edges. Yeah, I quite like that. I might want even a little bit more, and then to do a bit of spritzing and flicking to give us a bit of texture in that background, because it's a bit bland and boring at the moment for my money. So let's get those out of the way as I spritz and flick some water at it. And it won't be a full-on spritz and flick because those colours are quite subtle, but it's just going to give me a sort of bit of pleasing vintage texture into that background. Let it sit for a moment so that that ink and that water can say hello to each other. And then away we go. Pick it up with some kitchen roll. Good. So this is, because pre-folded cards, you've got no idea what kind of cardstock you're getting. That's given us quite a nice sort of snowy, rough texture hitting it with the water, which I'm actually quite enjoying, to be honest. I want some background stamping? I don't know. I sort of feel like maybe it's this wonderful one, beautiful detailed wording for a toy and doll exhibition, or maybe it's snow. Maybe it's a white paint stamping. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with this, and I'm going to go in Pebble Beach if I can find it under all the mess that is accumulating. And again, I'm not going to put it on, I'm not going to mount it on a grid block. I'm just going to roll it on and off because I just want a hint of detailing going on. Yes, good. Okay, that's making me more interested in what's going on these. A little bit of extra vintage detail. If I go through the middle here, then I can hit both cards at once. Just get a bit of detailing there. Some down in this corner. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? So much more going on. And now maybe I'm going to feel better about the collaging when it goes back over the top. That's a brilliant stamp. I love it. Music and Advert, and that obviously is the Advert. So down in the pile. Okay, let's put these back and see what we feel about them now. Yeah, see now that I've got some vintage green neutrals going on, those reds are giving me a headache again. Ah, dear oh dear. You wouldn't think that red could cause somebody so many problems, would you? I think we want you a little further up, maybe sitting right on that corner. That's quite nice. There we go. Let's pop you down there. And I'm now starting to feel like I don't want my own little bits of maybe. No, I think that's distracting me. I think I'm gonna be a purist about this and just go ideology. I dug out a couple of, well, Peace on Earth. I think who could not want that going into 2025? Maybe a Winter Wonderland across there. Yeah, you see what I mean about, so I've eliminated elements rather than adding elements. I've eliminated elements and I've gone simpler. The background has got a bit more detail and a bit more interest on it, and I'm almost thinking I want to bring in some greenery from around the edges. It's my greenery obsession. See, I think it might be back to some stamping. I've got these little stars. I don't know about those. I might want some labels, might be the thing, mightn't they? Just adding a little bit of extra detailing. And of course, bearing in mind that we do have, oh, that's, yeah, so that's quite interesting because we've got that green paper is the same as we stamped these labels on in the last session. So that really does relate, which is good. Up there, maybe a green one with it. Layer in a green one. Are you the right way up? I don't think you are. I think you go that way up. And I think you could go like that. And I think you could go, oh, there's a nice one. Like that. And then we could have a little round one maybe coming here. And another little round one that needs a bit of inking. That's oval rather than round. Yeah, that's starting to make me a lot happier. More labels. More labels. Give me more labels. That could be quite good. You up there with you. And you down here with you. Yep, and you know it's going to get some white spatter as well. So now it's just a question of gluing those down. Do we want a star? There's 2 different sizes of star as well. Yeah, maybe we do want a star. Maybe that's quite cute. I'll think about it as I'm gluing. So I'm going to glue those down. Fingers crossed. And come back to finish off our postcards. Okay, a couple of final bits of stamping I want to do on these, which is to get some frosted stems growing out of them. I've been having a look at my beautiful Umbels, the winter Umbels. I think this one might be just a little bit too big. I've looked at it on the postcards and I think it's going to kind of dominate. It might be all right. What I'm going to start with though are these slightly smaller ones, which are the pressed Umbels, and there's a sort of solid silhouette bold one and there's a really fine detail sketch one, and I think both of those might be quite good. This is the bold one. I think I'm minded to start with that as a kind of press stems coming up there. Now, since I'm going to be embossing these, I don't want this stuck down, because I'm going to need to tip embossing powder off it. So this is mobile, it's on the mat. This is the Wow Opaque Bright White. It really doesn't matter what colour I stamp them in, because as we know, once the embossing powder is over them, it's not going to matter at all. And I think I want to try and spread them out a little further, and because the stems on these are nice and bendy, I can position those as I want to. See, that's quite nice, isn't it, to be able to get that variation of positioning. And around here is where it's going to go onto the other postcard, so I just need to make sure I don't put ink right down here, because then I'll get stamping where I don't want it. Or do I want them sort of tucked more in the, because these are going to be bright white, so they will show up over the greenery. Maybe I want to start over here. Maybe that's an easier one to position as a starting one. Let's do that. So here it is really just the very bottoms. So I think in order to get a nice lot of powder onto this, I'm going to use a distress ink, which is quite juicy. If you want a finer detail stamping, then using an Archival can get you a little bit more precision. But I think I want quite a presence from these, I think is the idea. Actually, these don't want to be further apart. Never mind. Never mind. Oh, don't come off on me. Okay. Let's stick you right back down in the middle. And that means you're going to need a bit more ink in that middle, because it's now on my fingertip. Inky fingers. Always the sign of a good time. I'm going to be bold over here. That is where I want them. I'm going to go with it. On it goes. Remembering my paper is quite absorbent. And then let's get the white embossing powder on straight away before that ink can dry. Haven't got my paper ready to catch it, of course. There we are. Just a piece of A4. And then let's tip that back down there and hope not too much gets caught on the masking tape. Yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy that. Yeah, the inks in the background weren't quite dry, so I'm just going to have a little look at that. That's amazing. I did a good strong heat tool time with them, and then it's been sitting there while we've been busy collaging cards, and still there's moisture in some of those background leaves. So I'm just going to, with a dry paintbrush, knock back some of the ones that I can get at easily, sort of either side of the stems there. And that's definitely not my umbel. I know, because I drew it. Let's get rid of that there. So before I do any more of this, I'm clearly going to have to go and do a little bit more drying. I'm going to just lightly tap in between there, because I think it'll help things that are on drier embossing powder. Now, somebody was recommending that what you do is you let the whole thing dry, and then only the bits that were truly wet will catch the embossing powder. But I'm too impatient for that, quite apart from anything else. there's still quite a lot going on there that is not my Umbel. So this time I'm going to give it a good strong flick, just to try to get rid of anything that is on anything that's not fully wet. And I think that might give us enough detail to be going on with. That's quite a lot of powder that's come off. So I think I will put it back in the pot. Let's do that up. And let's have a go with the heat tool and see what we've got. We're going to need the heat tool in action again in any case, to dry the postcards properly. So hopefully, given the backgrounds of these have got old paper and all of that sort of business, the white, there it is, as it melts. I hope you saw that magic moment. The white is going to show up quite fully, quite prominently in the foreground, because it is bright white as opposed to the sort of vintage colours we've got going on elsewhere. I quite like that those stems, they've got a bit of a look of hoarfrost because of that extra powder that was heading off in all directions. Okay, and I'm gonna go over these again. So that for our next bit of white stamping, it can be white stamping. I don't know if you can see some of the green has bled into there. That's partly because I knocked away powder, but I still quite like the effect of it. Because it means those frosty stems are not going wah, wah, wah in my face. They're blending into that white into that greenery in the background. I was a bit worried they were just going to be too in your face, but actually they're rather deliciously subtle. Okay, seriously, you must now be dry. But my other little thought here, and it might be too bold, I'm going to wait with the next one of those so that we're continuing to give it drying time, is I really wanted this delicate little berry stem from the Winter Watercolor, which is one that I think we used in the watercolor stamping session. And I think what I want to do is put it on in Uncharted Mariner. I'm not entirely sure about this as a move, but it's what my brain is asking for. So again, I thought I might test it on these long-suffering ATCs that have been sitting around gathering things. I thought I might just have a little look at this berry stem in Uncharted Mariner and see whether it is still calling to me if I do this over here. Yeah, I think it is. I think I am going to enjoy that if it's on our. Oh, see, just like that, they're good, aren't they? It almost needs almost nothing else. I'll have a look in a minute at what else it might want. But I am going to bring one of these stems into here, stretching quite a long way across this postcard. My paper is now all bent up as well because of wetting it and drying it, and yes, I like that a lot. In fact, so much that I think I want another one doing, I'm going to take it off there because I don't want it stamping on the other by mistake, that in a subtle way, and it might need a third. It's the rule of three. Works in poetry and works in visuals, works in flower arranging, an odd number of stems. So at the moment we've got two of those adds up to 4. As soon as I put this one on and we've got 5, that's a different kettle of fish. Oh, I can't wait for the reveal when we unpeel this paint. Good, yes, that's good. I like that. And then the thing I'm thinking over here is it might be something like speckled egg. Is that going to be strong enough? Maybe salvaged patina or evergreen bough. I'm going to do a second stamping of this berry with the evergreen bough oxide. I think that's going to give us quite a nice, yeah. Maybe we should even go with the secondary stamping. No, let's ink it up properly and have that maybe crisscrossing a little bit into there. Yeah, I'm enjoying that. And it might need a third one on each, and I'll think about the colour that that's going to be. Or it might be a question of a different stamp for the additional stamping. I'm going to keep that hanging around because I'm definitely going to deploy it elsewhere on these. I'm inclined to stick with this same stamp because I like its prominence. I think the sketchy one might be just a little bit too delicate for this. Good, since I've got Salvaged Patina Oxides sitting here, I'm going to ink up with that because I think it'll be nice and juicy for my powder to stick to. And this time I'm going to come down here with a slightly more upright look, I think, coming through here for these two. Let's get that ink down. Let's get that powder. Oh, see, that's rather good just like that. So I think there's going to be a Salvaged Patina stamping over on those ATCs in a minute. Okay, let's see how much of our powder is going to stick to places we don't want it this time. Half. Off you go. Go on, all of you. Oh, good. Just a little bit of additional greenery getting hit there. But for the most part, we're good. Finally dry. So I might do all of this stamping and then do all of the heat embossing off camera, because you don't need to see the heat embossing happening. And if I've got all four done at the same time, I'm almost inclined to go with this here, with these berries. Yeah, not quite sure. Let's go with another one over here first. Going to separate them again, I think, a bit for this one. So I'm just positioning them on the stamping grid, pressing down, in it goes. What I might want to do is do some spattering with this Salvaged Patina, because I do like the colour of it on there. Let's have you go like so. Good. And get the powder on. Okay, good. In fact, you don't even need to see me stamp all of them, do you? There, finally, look, all dry. Good. Yay. No extra white stuff sticking. Okay, I'm going to stamp my final pair, heat emboss it all, and come back to do the berry stamping with you. Back in a sec. Grand. So those are all embossed, nice and white. I added a little bit of extra to there, and I did, while I was at it, go Salvaged Patina onto those mop-up tags with the same Umbel, pressed Umbel. I'm now just finally going to add a few more berry stems. Might not be 3 on each, but I am enjoying their presence there quite a lot. What I might choose to do is, where's the Uncharted Mariner Oxide? So that's the Uncharted Mariner ink that's gone down. I'm just thinking of dabbing just a little bit of the oxide in there too, just for fun, just for kicks. So I'm going to lay one along the bottom there because that's quite nice. Yeah, it just gives it a slightly different mellowness. So we'll do one that's straight oxide, straight ink, although of course it has got oxide on the stamp now, so there will be a touch of it. I think that might be enough on that one, or maybe we want just a little one coming sort of up and off the side. It's going to be mostly on the masking tape, but we maybe want just a little touch of berry coming through up there. Yes, I think that's nice. It is that rule of 3. It's amazing. It's something about harmony and balance and a little bit of asymmetry is really good for these kinds of things. That's a nice berry stem. I like that a lot. So I'm going to go pretty much straight ink onto there, but as we know, there's some oxide still on there. Let's have that one coming up from below. Quite nice. Again, quite a lot of that's on the masking tape. It's fine. Do we want one coming through the middle? Oh, that's, I meant to do that with ink, not oxide. Don't want a full-on oxide one just at that point. I think what we'll do is we'll come crisscrossing up through here. Yep, that's good. And we might want just a little bit more berry action down in that corner, which we'll do with oxide because that will be nice and opaque and show up. That's good. And then finally on this fourth one, I can't even count anymore. That's the stage it's got to. Nice dark one coming up there. One coming maybe up through here, but not too far. I don't think we want to come out beyond that. That green one I like, and I want that to keep its prominence. And then we'll have one just coming up in there. Nice. Good. And I think it is worth having a little go at spattering with the Salvaged Patina ink, because I did love the colour of it on there. So again, I'm just going to make use of this little palette here. I'm going to smoosh some onto there. If this doesn't show up, then one could always try with paint. Get my little scraggy spatter brush, soften that with some water, and maybe have a little, yeah, it's just giving a nice bright highlight to that dark greenery. And you know there's going to be some white spatter in a minute anyway, but I think there's something quite nice about that other colour. And Salvaged Patina and Uncharted Mariner in any case are always a joy together. I've no idea how many minutes of fun we're at now. Hours of fun today. I've tried to stop in the places where there's things going on that are not that interesting, but somehow it all just carries on. I think we might use some of that leftover spatter onto here just to give us some more detail and interest on those ATCs. And finally, it's going to be white spatter, and then time to peel the masking tape, which is going to be real fun. That's too much stuff going on there. The really watery spatter has of course affected the inks underneath, but that's fine. We've got a lovely soft look going on. And so for this one, there's even still some Salvaged Patina left on my brush, but I'm fine with that. So let's get some snowiness onto here. This I'm going to get the heat tool out and dry, because if I leave the moist white paint there, it's just going to pick up colour from behind. So I'm going to get the heat tool onto that pretty snappily. And I'll be back to peel the tape. Right, it's tape peeling time, and this should be where the magic happens, because the thing that is looking sort of quite a big mess at the moment will suddenly get really nice, neat edges with bright white frames. Hopefully my masking tape hasn't stuck down too much and won't peel up my paper at the same time, but quite a good way to avoid that happening is if you can peel at a steep angle. So I'm really folding back against the page. So rather than pulling up towards me, I'm going to pull away. I can't remember what order I put this masking tape down in, so I keep meeting a cross piece that needs to come up first. And that's coming away there quite nicely. Oh, and now that masking tape is not coming away because it's stuck on this one. So let's go finish up there. You never get a nice clean peel and reveal, do you? It's still got a magic to it. But some of this is going to be worth preserving, because some of this has got really nice stamping on it. So some of this I'm just going to stick to another piece of paper over here in the corner and be able to use it later on. So yeah, although you're peeling back on itself, do your best to not let it get completely messed up, because we've got nice green washi tape, design tape, handmade, beautiful mixed media tape. I'll show you that at the very end. So yeah, that's why it's a shame it's ripped along the middle here. But, you know, you can't have everything. Let's get this last piece up from the middle. See, that's got beautiful paint marks on it. That will just be nice on a tag background. Let's peel this one up now. Here we come. There's not so much of interest on that one, so I don't think we'll bother with it. Not so much of interest on this one, so I don't think we'll bother with it. Pech. There we go. Still one little bit there, stopping my nice straight line at the top. There we go. And can you see what I mean now about these clean postcards coming away? Oh, it's just always a thrill. This comes away. Actually, this one's got some quite nice stuff on it, so this one I will preserve down here if I can. Let's peel you up. Again, peel back against the grain. No, still, the good bit is still there. Look, that's the good bit of tape. That's not terrible. Okay, we'll keep you over here. Come on now, be friendly. It's just a question of getting your fingernails under, but as I've mentioned before, I don't have much in the way of fingernails because they're just not compatible with either gardening or crafting. There we go. There we go. That's a beautiful piece of tape. Oh, both of those are beautiful pieces of tape. I can't wait to stick those on something and use them. I might even use them on these ATCs. Let's stick that down there. I'll show you those as well in the close-ups. You'll get to see those tapes. But I mean, and now you can see what I mean about the vintage paper look, because now that you can see it direct against the white, even those places that have just been looking like mess now have a real beauty to them. If I were feeling so minded, I would take this to a guillotine and cut it, but I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to go sort of halfway between those two, halfway between those two, halfway between those two, and halfway between those two, because I think I'm probably going to want to trim those white borders a little bit narrower in any case. So at this point, a straight line is not necessarily what I'm after. Okay, I'm pretty much in love with those. The magic of the reveal. This thing that's been looking like a big hot mess on the desk suddenly turns into wintry mixed media postcards. We've got 2 mop-up ATCs that I'm probably going to have a little play with now and finish off in some way. They'll appear on Instagram. Oh, and the collage cards. Where lost my collage card. Oh, they want some snowy spatter, don't they? Okay, you lot out of the way. And let's just get ourselves a last little spatter of Snowflake. Could there be a more appropriate paint with which to spatter at Christmas time? No. Answer no. I might, well, since they're here, I might let them have a little bit of white spatter while we're at it as well. It needs a little bit more water. It's not going to spatter very much otherwise. Okay, away we go. Boom, boom, boom. And again, for me, this is the magic moment where a maybe slightly unsatisfactory collage just becomes magical because it's got that spatter of Christmas snow and frost. Let's let those onto there. Magical little ATCs. I think they might just be something as simple as a word sticker on there now. Really, I'll see what strikes me about them. Grand. So I'm going to be diving in for a close-up of these things. I hope you've enjoyed another few more minutes of fun with me at the craft table, and I hope there's some inspiration in there for you, either for the last of the Christmas preparations or to play with over the 12 days of Christmas. So once we hit the 24th of December, the 12 days open up through to January the 6th, and I will finally be in a Christmassy mood at that point, and there will undoubtedly be some more wintry festive makes to be found. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I'll try to leave as much detail as possible in the description down below. Do leave comments, and a thumbs up is always welcome. Thank you. And if you're not already subscribed, I would love it if you join us on this creative journey. Hang around for the close-up any minute now. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting all.